I wonder if this guy knew what he was getting into. Like this random person that they recruited to put out the virus. I feel like he didn't know that he would be shortly. Do not try to make a uranium centrifuge. You will disappear. All right? That's my warning to you, chat. Do not try to do this IRL at home. If people find out you're doing this, you will be on a watch list. And I'm not talking about like FBI agents watching you. I'm talking like, people might try to just a regular engineer working for some normal company, and then someone says, hey, the equipment that you made is actually being used to manufacture nuclear weapons. Can you come in and tell us exactly how your thing works so we can craft the perfect hack against it? That's a PR slip up if I've ever heard of one. Damn. Yeah. So we're watching the world's first cyber attack. Like, seriously, this was when people found out that you could use hacking as a real weapon, and multiple day zero hacks that have never been seen before were unveiled to make this happen, and is almost definitely a government psyop, like for sure. Okay, let's see. Drag him out. No, I'm not dragging out Mr. Tripod. Okay, that's too much. Okay, I'm not an NSFW creator, though I'd be rich because I definitely have a 12-inch cock.
The year is 2007. Dutch engineer
This
Eric
is
von
recent, by the way,
Saaben
2007.
enters an empty and quiet factory room. The machines whir in hushed tones as he steps inside to find the equipment that he's looking for. He sets down his tools and gets to work. Eric was a brave and focused man, willing to take risks, but even he could not comprehend how great a risk he was taking in that very moment. He started to perspire, ever eager to get his task completed so he could exit undiscovered. Once he finished, Eric stood up, wiped the sweat from his brow, and exited the room to go about his day. Although nobody suspected him, Eric von Saaben was not just the industrial engineer that he claimed to be, he was also an international spy. He knew his orders.
We didn't know about this until much later, by the way. When the USB hack was revealed, we didn't know who did it for a while.
What he did not know was that he had just changed the rules of warfare forever. Not only that, but he would be dead less than 2 years later. That's because this was no ordinary factory. This was the Natanz nuclear enrichment facility in Iran. And what von Saaben had just done was upload a computer virus to it. Soon, this digital worm would be considered one of the most incredible pieces of malware to ever exist. A plot to slow down Iran's nuclear enrichment program was unearthed, and a US government-backed hacking organization that went unnoticed for at least 15 years was exposed. So do you ever wonder what nation states get up to when they think that nobody's watching?
Some random person stumbled upon a secret CIA op like 15 years later. It was going on for a very long time. There's a good book on it. There's a book on this. It's something that's commonly taught in computer science classes. This is like a big thing in the engineering security field. Almost any person who works in cybersecurity has heard of this story. It's a really big deal.
Well, you're about to find out, because today on War of Graphics, we're going to show you the timeline of one of the first digital weapons of the modern age, pulling back the curtain on the murky world of nation-state-sponsored cyber espionage. It's tech support's worst nightmare, the name that software developers whisper quietly in the dark. August 2002, Iranian facility at Natanz is discovered. Now,
also, I'm curious because I haven't watched this guy's take on it, but I know a lot about the history. So let's see how he covers it, because I'm sure this person is not technical. So I don't know. Be interesting.
Before we get to 2007 and the story of Eric von Saaben, we have to go back further, all the way to August 2002, when the National Council of Resistance of Iran, a revolutionary organization seeking to overthrow the Iranian government, exposed the existence of the Natanz facility. With this announcement came the realization that Iran was further along their long-awaited nuclear journey than most people thought.
A resistance group outed Iran for having a gigantic nuclear facility. How you keep something like this secret, I don't know how, because satellite images would fully detect this, right? I feel like the government already knew long beforehand.
In 2003, the Iranian government formally announced the facility's existence, with then President Ahmadinejad citing a need for 50,000 centrifuges to be installed at the uranium enrichment plant. They, of course, didn't call it a uranium enrichment plant, stating that the use of the plant is to generate nuclear power for their country.
That is hilarious. Oh, Neko Taco, thank you. Thank you for the ball. What timing? Okay, chat. One thing that separates a nuclear power plant from being a weapon versus just regular nuclear energy is centrifuges. That's actually the main thing. You can tell if uranium is being used for a bomb or for just power because of the centrifuges. If a centrifuge exists, its only purpose is for making bombs, okay? The centrifuge is needed to purify uranium. You don't need purified uranium for regular nuclear power. So if they have centrifuges, you know they're building something. And for them to like fully cap and be like, we need a bunch of centrifuges. Also, we're gonna, we're totally using this for normal power. Everyone knew they were lying. That's fucked up. Damn. Okay. Yeah. Also, if you didn't know what a centrifuge is, it's just a thing that spins around really fast, and it uses the mass difference between different atoms to separate them. So you usually like turn uranium into a gas or some liquid, and then you spin around really fast. Uranium-235 separates from uranium-238. Like the spinny things in the biolab? Yeah. It's exactly like that, except it's gigantic. And it is coated with special coatings to resist the uranium hexafluoride. That's pretty corrosive. I'm probably telling you too much about how to enrich uranium, so I'm just going to continue on.
And that they have peaceful intentions, and the uranium is only to be enriched to less than 5% in line with civilian nuclear power.
Wait, they're saying they want the capability to go past 5%, but they pinky promise they won't. I see. Okay, I see what they're trying to pull here.
Stations. The IAEA, or International Atomic Energy Organization, weren't convinced, and neither was Washington. Natanz is 100,000 square meters of facility, buried 8 meters underground with 2.5 meter thick concrete walls. It would go on to have its roof hardened and 22 meters of extra earth dumped on top of it. The Iranians wanted to...
They literally built an underground nuclear bunker, underground nuclear bunker, asked for uranium purification, like weapons grade uranium purification equipment, and then said, we're not building a bomb. That's pretty funny.
To make sure that this wasn't simply a facility that could be bombed from the air or attacked with kinetic means. Washington's worries were heightened by Iran's failure to fully cooperate with the IAEA by not allowing their inspectors access to the control room, obscuring what equipment they used. It was no civilian power station, and Washington was worried. Something had to be done. Something different. The CIA had been on a campaign to sabotage Iran's nuclear systems.
It's a, trust me, bro, what we're doing inside here is totally safe, guaranteed. We're not going to hurt anyone. Also, you can't look behind it. Also, we're ordering weapons-grade equipment. Okay.
For years, they introduced faulty parts, flawed designs, and even modified power supplies to explode when operated. In reality, these efforts did little to slow down Iran's...
I love that the CIA is trying to taint and tamper with stuff by being like, hey, we have like cheap equipment you can buy on eBay. Also, it's rigged to explode when used in your power plant.
In reality, these efforts did little to slow down Iran's path to nuclear armament. If Washington failed to stop Iran before it was too late, they would have enough enriched uranium to construct nuclear warheads. Worse still, Israel could start an armed conflict with Iran, as Israel sees a nuclear-armed Iran as an existential threat to its existence. This would destabilize the Middle East even more than it already was in 2003, which is to say a lot. The United States had just invaded...
Your title concerned me, so I had to click. I mean, this is what we're doing. We're talking about how the CIA infiltrated a nuclear manufacturing program in Iran. We're going on a watch list now. You've already been on a watch list.
Iraq. They didn't have a leg to stand on to be demanding Iran's nuclear non-proliferation, or while failing to find WMDs in Baghdad. There had to be a way to get inside Iran's facilities and disrupt them without a shot being fired.
Oh, thank you for the follow.
And that's when General James E. Cartwright, the then leader of a small cyber operation inside of US Strategic Command, had an idea. and that idea would go on to become Stuxnet. 2004, US starts looking at vulnerabilities in P1 centrifuges. In 2004, the governments of Israel and the United States began trying to understand what the weak link would be in the Iranian facility that they could target with a cyber attack. There was only one real answer to this: the centrifuges. Due to their function to spin at extremely high speeds, the destructive capability of the centrifuges could be catastrophic to the nuclear program. Centrifuges are complicated technology, and they are expensive to replace. It would
Okay, the centrifuge itself is not that complicated. The equipment is just expensive. Okay, it's just a spinning thing. It's just a spinning thing at a lab. There's a bunch of special coatings to handle uranium, and that's pretty much it. There's like confidential tubings and stuff like that to transfer the gas, but we don't talk about that. But other than that, it's like somewhat straightforward. I think more so the cost, because valve costs that are airtight and can withstand uranium are very expensive and have to be specifically made.
slow the Iranians down drastically if they could somehow use a digital weapon to take them offline en masse. To do this, Israel and the US needed centrifuges, the same ones that Iran used, the P1. Now, the P1 was a nuclear centrifuge design that Abdul Qadir Khan, the father of the Pakistani nuclear program and perennial nuclear proliferator, leaked to the Iranian government in the late 80s. Thankfully for the United States and Israel, they knew this due to the IAEA inspections. They also knew that the P1 was poorly designed and prone to flaws. That was going to be ideal.
By the way, the nuclear centrifuges that the US have developed is still like the gold standard. That's the go-to one. The ones that they built at the beginning of the war, the Cold War anyway. Kind of surprising, right? But a lot of people have made their own side designs, and some of them work, some of them don't.
Ideal. What's even better is that Israel and the US already had some P1s they could start testing on. When Gaddafi...
Can I do this IRL? Okay, let's say, you know what? We'll entertain this for a bit, chat. This is my special interest talk time, okay? If you, let's say you had unlimited funding and you had the time and the approval of the entire world to do this research. Because first of all, the second you start, people will know and they will probably eliminate you. Like, I'm just saying, if people find out you're doing this, you will be on a watch list. And I'm not talking about like FBI agents watching you. I'm talking like, people might try to assassinate you. Like, multiple researchers who have been researching the question that you are asking right now have been killed. Okay? Like, just FYI. Now, knowing this, I will continue to say what will likely happen is you will be trying to... Okay. What will likely happen is you're trying to contain uranium, and you're trying to contain uranium in a purified state. So what you need to do is you need to separate the heavier uranium isotopes from the lighter ones. And to do that, you need to turn it into a gas or some other like liquid form. And to do that, you have to work with very highly reactive chemicals. How reactive? We're talking the most reactive chemical out there. You're going to have to use fluorine. It will degrade and burn through your pipes. It'll also burn through your lungs. It will explode. It's a very commonly explosive. You'll have to work with every scary chemical you've ever heard of. You're going to have to work with it. You will have to invent new materials to handle all the corrosion. And you have to do all of this while doing it secretly so that you don't get offed. Like, it is a very difficult procedure. Even I know like the high levels bits of it, and I don't want to get into any deeper. Like, holy moly, it gets messy. It's hard. It's hard to do. Building a bomb once you have the purified uranium is not difficult. It's the purification process that's just so challenging. We've talked about this before. Yeah. Anyway, I love how the easiest way is to separate uranium is to yeet it super hard. That is the only way we know of. There's no chemical. Okay. Something about isotopes is they are chemically exactly the same as another isotope. So the difference between deuterium and helium, or not helium, deuterium and hydrogen. I think what is it's deuterium. How do I pronounce the isotope of hydrogen? Anyway, the difference between different deuterium. Fuck. Thank you. I'm so sorry. A lurker had to come in and correct me because I was struggling for so long. Okay. Deuterium and hydrogen have the exact same chemical properties. You will not be able to tell the difference between any of them. The only way to separate them is by mass. That's it. It's just the mass. And the one way you can separate with mass is by doing things like spinning it really fast or doing like buoyancy tests and stuff like that. And so centrifuges are really the way to go. Even that's how we identify a lot of elements with mass spectrometers too. I only remember hydrogen and tritium. Yeah, there's a bunch of isotopes. They all have like fun, fancy names. Some of them have fancy names.
He gave up Libya's nuclear ambitions in the late 90s and early 2000s. They sent the P1s they had to the USA. From there, they made
Okay, anyway, I just want to, before we talk more about the P1 centrifuges, do not try to make a uranium centrifuge. You will disappear, all right? That's my warning to you, chat. Do not try to do this IRL at home. Okay, anyway.
Replicas for testing. Israel succeeded with much difficulty in mastering the technology as well. Israel's P1s were studied at the Shimon Peres Nuclear Research Center in the Negev Desert, also known as Dimona, as it was already the epicenter for the worst kept secret in geopolitics, the Israelis' own nuclear program. They had the centrifuges, and now they needed to know how to attack them. 2005, Stuxnet earliest development began. As early as 2005, there were hallmarks of code found in the final versions of Stuxnet showing that may have been the year the development began on the virus. It was
also, I think you're forgetting about the machining challenges of having something structurally sound enough and balanced to spin at thousands of RPM. That's true. I glazed over that. Yeah, the structural engineering has to be very perfect. And you have to have great materials too. It's doable, but like, hard.
2005, Stuxnet earliest development began. As early as 2005, there were hallmarks of code found in the final versions of Stuxnet showing that may have been the year the development began on the virus. It was a joint venture by the Israeli and American government set up under the George W. Bush administration.
This is alleged. Why is he saying it like a matter of fact? I think to this day, the US government and the Israeli government deny any involvement. Like, I'm pretty sure there's no, unless something got declassified, how does he know? I call him bullshit. Where's your citations, okay? Like, there's no way the US government would ever admit to this. I think this is classified until all of us die plus another 70 years. Guys, also welcome in. You didn't know I was this smart? I don't know if I'm smart. This is a funny story that I've heard before. Of course they're gonna deny it. Like, yeah, right? So, I don't know. Maybe it's... I think as a news presenter person, you should be unbiased and you should say allegedly, even if there's a lot of evidence. I don't know.
Known under the moniker Operation Olympic Games. But why the cooperative approach? Couldn't the US do...
We know the moniker? There's no way. We know what the code name is? That's crazy. Oh.
Do this on their own? And, well, the answer to that is yes, they could. So what did the Israelis bring to the table? The Israeli Defense Forces Unit 8200 are the specialized intelligence arm of the Israeli army. It's an equivalent to something like the NSA in the United States, with specialisms in cyber warfare, counterintelligence, and surveillance, among others. Many of their soldiers have gone on to found successful IT companies in Silicon Valley and are even known to rival NASA for their technical expertise.
Really? Okay. I didn't know Israel was goated at software development, but okay. Questions your stream 18 plus? Yes. We talk about sex and bombs.
Plus their partnership with the United States and their proximity to Iran made them the perfect partner. In short, they both had skin in the game. However, Washington almost always has an ulterior motive. The US valued Israel as it gave them plausible deniability and someone to blame in case of their discovery.
Okay. This is reminding me the short I just showed beginning of the stream where I was like, oh, you get kidnapped by bank robbers and then you drive over multiple people and you're like, oh, it's the bank robbers. That's the US government. they love puppeting people and then letting them take the blame. I'm actually pretty sure that this entire thing was developed by US developers and they pinned it to Israel. They were like, here you go, here's the thing.
Bringing Israel along would be to prevent armed conflict between Israel and Iran. It was believed that Iran would have enough enriched uranium to manufacture a nuclear weapon by March 2011, and at the time, a third enrichment plant was being planned by the government in Tehran. Israel, therefore, needed to be involved in the project to be convinced to stave off bombing Iran and causing another conflict in the Middle East. And so the virus began development, but Stuxnet wasn't its name yet. The US simply called it the bug. The aim of the computer virus they planned to develop was to hurt uranium enrichment capabilities for the long term, but it wasn't the only tactic being developed. Together with international sanctions, Mossad's assassinations, and the CIA's acts of sabotage, a coordinated campaign of disruption was running parallel to the Iranians' enrichment program at every turn. Stuxnet was simply a part of this bigger program. Before long, at Dimona, the Israelis and the Americans were testing Stuxnet's capabilities and limits. The early tests were a success, but it would be another 2 years before it was deployed against Iran. 2005, Eric Van Sarben is recruited by the AIVD.
They don't talk about the testing. Oh, they don't talk about the virus at all. Really? Okay. The virus is first off, it's insane because the Iranian government knew that cyber attacks were a risk. So the entire plant, the entire facility had no internet connection. Like they went full raw dog, no Wi-Fi. And somehow you're supposed to get a virus into that system. It was crazy how they were able to do it. We have the virus right now today. People have read every single line of code and have fully dismantled it. But at the time, it was so cutting edge. And DK, if you mind spoilers, but I think I remember the story. Yeah. Oh, don't worry. I already know the story, but I'm trying to see what this guy is saying about it. So I'm watching a video about like how he's explaining to the average person. So I guess maybe you obscure the details. I'll give him, maybe he'll talk about it later. Maybe he'll talk about the details later. I won't spoil it then.
That same year, 2005, the Netherlands intelligence agency, the AIVD, recruited Eric Van Sarben to eventually infiltrate the Natanz enrichment facility. Van Sarben's wife was Iranian, and the company he worked for regularly did business with Iran's oil and gas industry, making him a perfect person to visit an Iranian nuclear facility. As a Westerner without suspicion, he had the credentials. But why ask the Dutch intelligence service for an American and Israeli operation? Well, it was actually at the request of the Americans. Van Sarben would have been more likely to do clandestine work for his own country than for a foreign power, and whilst he was a good candidate to enter Iran, it may be that the Americans wanted more separation from the event for extra plausible deniability. And I might be wondering why.
I wonder if this guy knew what he was getting into. Like this random person that they recruited to put out the virus. I feel like he didn't know that he would be shortly assassinated.
This just couldn't be done remotely. It's a computer virus after all. Well, Iran's nuclear infrastructure was separated entirely from the internet. In cybersecurity, this is called an air gap. This makes it impossible for a breach to come from outside. This is why the operation required someone to enter the facility and infect the systems. It does appear, thanks to journalists at De Volk's grant after a 2-year investigation, that many of those who took part in Stuxnet were not always given the full picture about what they were a part of. It is not out of the question to assume that Van Sarben may not have understood the full extent of his actions until after the fact. The Dutch government were kept entirely in the dark by their intelligence service, and even the AIVD themselves were not fully aware of what they were helping with.
They didn't know at all.
Admitted, we should have asked more questions.
No shit. Oh, damn. They like fully got taken for a ride.
April 2006, Iran enriches uranium for the first time. In April 2006, Iran successfully enriched uranium for the first time from the Natanz plant after telling the IAEA that it would no longer be complying with its protocols or inspections. This set off alarm bells to...
After years of denying that they would be making weapons, they finally were successful in making progress to their first weapon, and then they refused to comply to any safety inspections. They're like, nope, no more. We're not working with the international groups anymore. Sorry. Wow, that is scary. The thing is, I think the general public is not aware about this at all. Like, I wonder, like, do things like this happen all the time in the background that we're just not aware of? Probably. Again, Iran, trust me, bro. Yeah.
to the US and its allies. A nuclear armed Iran was and is one of the most potentially dangerous threats to Western nations, and they had to do something. The Americans and the Israelis pushed forward. Stuxnet was coming. 2007, Stuxnet's earliest use in Iran. 2007 is when the enrichment facility at Natanz was first attacked by Stuxnet after Eric van Sarben had successfully planted the worm. There's some contention over how the virus was introduced to the plant. Some say it was done via an ordinary USB stick. This is because the earliest versions of the virus required a USB stick to infiltrate systems and is corroborated by an unnamed architect of the virus who was alleged to have said, "It turns out there is always an idiot around who doesn't think much about the thumb drive in their hand." However, there is reason to believe he doesn't think...
Okay, by the way, oh, hi Val. I've worked for company research divisions. Every research division that I've ever worked on has banned USB sticks. And I'm telling you, there's always some fucker who takes their USB stick and they stick it in. They're like, why isn't it working? Let me try a different machine. And they go around with their USB stick, like putting it into every single computer. And then you're just like, what the fuck are you doing? Okay, first off, the USB stick itself is like fine. It's just something you really get used to using. You take it for granted, but it can carry some crazy stuff, and your computer may not. There's safety measures in place to stop viruses from a USB just jumping onto your computer the second you plug it in. But those safety features can be bypassed. There are ways to bypass them. Yeah, so I have a strict, I get a lot of USB bans, though USBs are very nice for file transfers. I'm not gonna lie, I do use them sometimes. I use them sometimes.
Much about the thumb drive in their hands. However, there is reason to believe that the virus was introduced to the computers of water pumps that were then installed by van Sarben. Even today, there is no definitive answer about how exactly Stuxnet entered the Iranian systems at Natanz. At first, though, absolutely nothing happened. But believe it or not, that's exactly what the US and the Israelis wanted. Quietly, in the background, without being noticed, the lesser-known initial Stuxnet attack was beginning. The virus used what was called a beacon to secretly draw an electrical blueprint of the plant, hoping to map the operations and understand how the computers control the centrifuges. It would send this map back to the programmers in the United States, establishing a link for the virus to be updated remotely. 2008, PLCs.
Wow, he glazed over that. Each one of the viruses, or each instance of the virus, it infects a computer secretly, by the way. First off, they used a day zero, a first hack that has never been seen before to bypass the security measure that prevents USB sticks from uploading viruses to your computer, right? Like that's already a day zero hack. And, and then they do another one where each hacked computer now has like hidden resources allocated inside it to keep the virus running. And then it will talk to other computers checking to see if those have the virus. They'll ping to an offline network. So any computer that's hooked up, just not even to the internet. I'm talking about like an offline corporate Wi-Fi, like something like your printing system. It has this. And so they're constantly communicating, being like, hey, are you still there? Is everything okay? How many of us are there? Like, what does the network look like? Stuff like that. And then when someone connects in, they can download all that information. So what they probably did is they had another spy come in, check all that info, and then leave with it. That's probably what happened. Because, I mean, again, it's still not connected to the internet.
It had been discovered that the Iranians' computers used the Windows operating system alongside software and hardware made by the German computer and software giant Siemens. They also make something called PLCs, or programmable logic controllers. They're essentially computers made for industrial automation, like factory assembly lines. They're used all over the world, from oil pipelines and electrical power grids to nuclear plants. The US power grid runs off them, and so did the centrifuges at Natanz. In early 2008, Siemens cooperated with the US National Laboratory in Idaho.
Imagine getting called up by the CIA after inventing, like, I don't know, you're just a regular engineer working for some normal company, and then someone says, hey, the equipment that you made is actually being used to manufacture nuclear weapons. Can you come in and tell us exactly how your thing works so we can craft the perfect hack against it? Damn. I met two of the directors of Siemens while I was in Europe. Wow, that's really cool. You should ask them their participation in nuclear cracking.
To identify the vulnerabilities of their PLCs, Siemens could never have expected what their secrets would be used for. Now the US had a blueprint of the facility, the ability to update Stuxnet from within, and now the vulnerabilities of the computers that run Iran's centrifuges. They were ready. 2008 to 2010, the Stuxnet years. Stuxnet is one of the most complex pieces of malware ever constructed. The depths it used to not only target vulnerabilities but also mask its own operations was revolutionary. It's revolutionary even today. The worm used what's called zero-day exploits. These are exploits in systems that were not previously known to their developers. To find one zero-day exploit is remarkable. Stuxnet used 4. Once it was updated, the virus got to work. It searched
just by the way, a single day zero exploit, like let's say you find a way to bypass a Mac login, right? If you know how to log into MacBooks that no one else should have access to, that information sells for millions of dollars. It is something that is extremely valuable and hard to do. And if for you to find 4 of these things and then not be a single individual, like random person getting lucky, like that's why everyone is sure that this is almost definitely a government thing. Like no other company or thing, or even a big tech company could not acquire so many crazy vulnerabilities all at one place.
Throughout the Iranian computer systems. It would scan the computer it was in for the specific Siemens software it was looking for and other criteria. When the criteria were met, it would immediately drop its payload, taking control of the PLC and the centrifuge it spun by modifying the code. It would then duplicate itself and search for up to 3 other computers to infect. Meanwhile, it would record normal monitoring levels, which would be sent back to the Iranians on a loop, and all malicious files would be hidden, making it harder to detect. A small number of centrifuges would start to spin at a much higher rate than they usually would, then slow down again, damaging the motors, eventually causing them to fail. It worked.
That was the main thing. The whole point of the virus is to make the centrifuge spin just slightly faster than designed, and then slow down a little too fast to cause the motors to slowly give way. Like, it's a slow killer. It is a silent little project. They're not trying to stop the program outright. They're trying to reduce its efficiency over time. And there's a bunch of other things going on that are lying to the computer to be like, oh, everything's normal. Like, trust me, bro, everything's normal. It's like freezing and melting something slowly to widen the cracks. Yeah. Eventually it'll break, but it'll take some time.
The US and Israel had successfully attacked Iran's nuclear enrichment facility from the inside. They had slowed Iran down, but only a fraction. There was no centrifuge explosion or huge catastrophe just yet, but the power and destructive potential of Stuxnet was definitely clear. During this time, in late 2008 and early 2009, George W. Bush, the presidential architect of Stuxnet, left office, urging incumbent President Barack Obama to continue Operation Olympic Games at all costs. President Obama not only continued the program, he accelerated it. New versions of Stuxnet came as each attack helped them hone the next. On January 16, 2009, 2 weeks after Van Sarben visited his family in Iran, but left early in an unexplainable panic, he was riding in his motorcycle in Dubai when it left the road and overturned, breaking his neck and killing him. No foul play was expected by those at the scene, seemingly ruling out a revenge attack. Van Sarben's death appears to be an unfortunate accident.
I don't know about that one. I don't know about that. Okay, sure.
But nobody can know for certain. Meanwhile, Stuxnet was wreaking havoc secretly within Natanz. At first, the Iranians didn't expect a thing, except their centrifuges were continuously breaking. No 2 attacks were exactly alike in how they affected the systems or what part would be forced to fail.
Hey, welcome in, Raiders. And today we are learning about the CIA using the world's first cyber attack to take down Iranian nuclear programs. So that's what we're doing. You're probably going to end up on a watch list if you stay here. So welcome in, Raiders. Hi, hello.
Further helping to mask the virus. The Iranians didn't trust their equipment, and given the shoddy design of their centrifuges, they were right not to. Eventually, the Iranians did suspect sabotage, though. They began to look everywhere, but they found no evidence of tampering within the systems. Employees were fired, investigations were launched, and precautions were taken, and yet the...
Imagine getting fired because multiple governments, or like imagine you're hired for making the centrifuges work, and for some reason you don't know this, but there's an entire shadow government that's working to make your centrifuge just slightly worse, and you can't find out why. Every time you look, all the code is lying to you. All the health systems say that they're fine. You start checking the people who give you the centrifuges. You like do mechanical inspections. You rip them apart. You rebuild them multiple times, and they keep failing. You have no idea. Like you reset computers and whatnot. Oh, by the way, this thing will survive a computer reset, because the thing is, it lives on a network. So when one of the computers get reset, it'll just get reinfected by another computer. You have to reset every computer at the same time, which is like... Who does that, right? So I feel bad if you got fired here. Maybe don't work on nuclear programs.
Attacks continued on and off until at least 2010. During this time, 1/5 of Iran's nuclear enrichment capability tore itself apart. A major blow had been dealt to their nuclear program. Wow. Almost 1,000 centrifuges were damaged and had to be replaced as part of the Stuxnet attacks. It was perfect. It was almost too perfect. 2010, Stuxnet leaks to the world. During 2010, a bug in the code of a new Stuxnet update caused it to gain access to the internet. As one of Stuxnet's main priorities is to spread to other computers, it used the internet to spread exactly how it had done in the Nahan's plants, unknowingly infected computers all over the world. Stuxnet infected 200,000 computers across the globe and caused 1,000 machines to physically degrade, although it's generally believed the number is higher, as there's no way of...
Okay, that is not entirely true. The designers of Stuxnet knew that this virus would spread outside of the power plant. There's actually code inside Stuxnet to check to see, hey, am I a uranium nuclear power plant? If so, destroy centrifuge. So if you're just a regular laptop, it doesn't do anything. It technically runs in the background, so it kind of bloats up your system just a tiny bit. But like the computing power that it takes is so small that honestly, it's gonna be fine. So it was totally fine. It just causes a little bit of slowdown. A random scientist, my centrifuge is broken. Okay, it will only work for a specific type of centrifuge, and that centrifuge is only used by Middle Eastern countries to purify uranium to weapons grade material. Okay, like unless you are a random scientist trying to make a nuclear warhead in your basement using leaked centrifuge information from the Cold War, like, I think you're fine.
Knowing how many other systems not connected to the internet have been infected. From Russia to India, Iraq, Indonesia, and many more, the weapon, once described as a marksman shot, turned out to have the impact and spread of the very nuclear bombs Washington was trying to stop being constructed. The US blamed the Israelis for the bug that caused the breach. Then Vice President Joe Biden was furious, saying the Israelis had gone too far. The US were concerned that it was just a matter of time before Stuxnet was discovered, and that this would embolden enemies of the US to retaliate with cyber weapons of their own. But as the cat was already out of the bag, and the US had no other way to directly slow down Iran's enrichment ambitions, President Obama chose for the attacks to continue. July 2010, Stuxnet officially discovered. In July 2010, a Belarusian cybersecurity company was helping an Iranian client whose computer wouldn't stop rebooting. The company delved into the code of the machine to discover the bug causing it to misfire. They could not believe what they discovered. The most sophisticated malware ever made, and the code within it was there for all to see.
This is a true story. It was just a random laptop that was having a different bug. By the way, the thing that was causing the computer reboot was not Stuxnet. It was something entirely different. And they were looking around, and some engineer got a little bored, and they were poking around, and they found this computer virus that was sitting in the background, like in raw assembly code, hidden away. Like, it is very obscured. And as they dismantled it, they realized it was malware. And They were like, wow, this is a crazy piece of malware.
This discovery is where the name Stuxnet was first coined, based on lines within the code. From there, Symantec and the Kaspersky Group, among others, delved into Stuxnet's code to solve the mystery of where it came from. In late 2010, Iran's president Mahmoud Ahmadinejad broke the Iranian regime's silence about the worm's impact on its enrichment program, saying a cyber attack had caused minor problems with some of our centrifuges. He added, fortunately, our experts discovered it. Up until this point, the Iranians had claimed no serious damage had been done to their centrifuges. Evidence of US and Israeli involvement. So, how do we know that this was in fact the Israeli and US governments working together to achieve this? Could Stuxnet not have come from some other hacktivist group or even another nation state? Well, since its discovery, there have been several clues and outright statements which indicate why a joint US-Israeli operation was the most likely origin. In 2011, an American expert on nuclear intelligence told the New York Times, "The reason the worm has been effective is that the Israelis tried it out," all but confirming a collaboration of the program.
That's a PR slip up if I've ever heard of one. Damn, that guy got fired for sure.
Among other clues in the code referencing Israel, the size and complexity of the code meant that only a nation-state actor could bear the estimated $1 billion cost of developing the malware.
Okay, I mean, I don't know if it costed $1 billion, but I don't know where they're getting the estimate, but it does require an amazing amount of resources. And at the time, the US government had the access to the best programmers in the world. I would still say like the US is quite ahead in terms of software, especially malicious software compared to other places. Russia's catching up.
And a rich one at that. It was 50 times larger than a standard computer worm. Nobody had ever seen anything like it before. If you needed any more proof of the US's inclusion, Gary Samore, the White House coordinator for arms control and weapons of mass destruction during the Obama administration, commented at the time of discovery, quote, "We're glad they, the Iranians, are having trouble with their centrifuge machine, and that we, the US and its allies, are doing everything we can to make sure that we complicate matters for them, offering..."
These people should not be giving interviews. Wow, okay.
Subtle acknowledgement of the United States' involvement in Stuxnet. Post-2010. Since the Stuxnet attack on the Iranian enrichment facility at Natanz was revealed to the world, Washington's push against Iran's nuclear ambitions has been constant. In the years since Stuxnet initially hit, other cyber attacks, assassination, sabotage, and kinetic force have all been used to slow their progress. The on-again, off-again Iran nuclear deal set in place by Washington has also not done enough to quell Tehran's atomic ambitions. In 2021, there was an attack on the plant that caused a blackout, coming a week after President Biden attempted to revive.
They sound like high school girls that talk behind each other's back. Okay, except they're high school girls with world-ending weapons, which is why it's scary. Charmali Pai, hey, welcome in. You know what? I think he's just talking about the hype after this. I want to show you how it actually works. There's more information about this. Like, we have all the code, so we know exactly how the code works and is propagated. So let's see. New anime plot? Please no, I swear.
The nuclear deal that President Trump ended. Iran was even able to launch a counterattack against the US's banking network in 2012 using what's known as a denial of service attack, though it was deemed unsuccessful. Iran denies the attack, but the timing, the target, and the size made it likely a nation-state was involved, making Iran the most likely proponent.
You ever talk to a mean teenage girl?
The significance of the Stuxnet attacks were unprecedented. This was the first time a nation-state had been able to remotely destroy the infrastructure of another nation-state through digital means. The genie was out of the bottle. Or at least it was for the public. Stuxnet wasn't simply the first cyber weapon created by world powers.
It was the first one discovered.
The most successful by far that is publicly known, but it's not the first. And the more you delve into the true origins of Stuxnet, the stranger things become. To really understand where it came from, we need to go back further than you could possibly imagine. 5 years after its discovery in 2015, it was found that there were links in Stuxnet's code that relate to a mysterious hacker organization known as the Equation Group. It was unearthed by the Kaspersky Lab, one of the foremost global organizations on cybersecurity, noticing several distinct similarities between the code in various other viruses such as Fanny Flame and Flower Shop, as well as Stuxnet. For example, prior to Stuxnet, 2 of the 4 zero-day exploits that it used were discovered in other malware that predate Stuxnet's existence. Meaning, at the very least, those who created Stuxnet and the Equation Group collaborated on their work, or there was overlap in personnel. The Equation Group's oldest...
That's funny. So they use the exact same hack for other hacks as well. Okay, okay.
Code goes back to 2001, but according to the Kaspersky lab, they could have been in operation as early as 1996. The Equation Group have targeted geopolitical level infrastructure all over the world, from governments and diplomatic institutions to aerospace and energy groups to nuclear research and nanotechnology. Only a group with incredible technical prowess, the funding to develop such malware, and the intelligence to deploy it all over the globe would be able to do what the Equation Group had done. The Kaspersky lab seems to think so too, describing them as the most advanced hackers they'd ever seen. Due to having self-destruct features, another similarity to Stuxnet, in their code, it's difficult to ascertain the real numbers affected by the group. While only 500 malware infections could be found, the real number could be in the tens of thousands. And nobody has any idea they existed for at least a decade and a half.
The thing is, if it was just a bunch of Russian teenagers making malware, they brag to their friends, right? Like, it would have to get out eventually. But this was multiple crazy high-level hacks that no one talked about for decades. So I am of the belief that this is definitely a CIA op for sure. That's it. I'll make my own malware that will just fill your computer with yaoi. There's already a fork bombs. They already exist. All right. Well, they're not yet. They don't fill with yaoi. They just do recursion to blow up your computer. I can send you one right now. I'll type it up for you. It's like 5 lines. Not even 5 lines, it's like 5 characters.
Due to all the similarities to Stuxnet, alongside the technical prowess of their work, the Equation Group is assumed to be heavily linked to the Tailored Access Operations Unit of the NSA. The NSA code words straight acid and straight shooter have been
Oh no, I might have that virus. I don't download yaoi willingly. Oh no, why is my homework folder suddenly filled with yaoi? What happened? Oh, it's a CIA operation. Oh no, tragic.
found in the Equation Group's code. A former NSA employee told Reuters that Kaspersky's analysis was correct and that people still in the intelligence agency valued these spying programs as highly as Stuxnet. Another former intelligence operative stated that the NSA had developed the ability to conceal spyware in hard drives, but said he did not know which spy efforts relied on it. It would be confirmed by Edward Snowden's whistleblowing in 2013 that the NSA did have domestic and international spying operations ongoing. In 2017, a group of hackers called the Shadow Brokers stole data belonging to the Equation Group, the most recent of which was from 2013. This would align with the NSA's information lockdown since Snowden's leaks. It appears that Stuxnet was not the only cyber weapon being developed by the USA, which begs the question,
we know that, right?
What else don't we know?
The future. Okay, the video's wrapping up, and then we'll talk about how this works.
Was not one of a kind. Whilst arguably the most effective in its mission, it is by no means the only shot fired across the bow of the digital domain. Stuxnet was being developed in the mid-2000s. The other Equation Group code goes back to 2001. If a cyber weapon deployed in 2007 was so sophisticated that it could do the damage it did, what could similar people with similar resources do almost 2 decades later?
Oh, also, just something for you to keep in mind. Inside the same size it would take to fill up a PS2 game, like a PS2 game disc, I could fit the entirety of a small but functioning LLM. So I could fit a mini chat GPT in there and train it with pre-trained data. So there's crazy new computer technology that can be done. Instead of me just giving you information, I can make like an AI chatbot that has confidential information that can teach you how to build weapons or like give you extra information, stuff like that. It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
With AI technology, writing code is easier than ever, and the tools used by non-nation state actors.
Oh, also though, wait. This guy's saying with AI technology, writing code is easier than ever. That's kind of not true.
One thing I should point out that this video didn't. Israel has 3 main intelligence organizations. 1. Amman, military intelligence. 2. Shine Bet, it's like Israel's version of the FBI. And 3. The one everyone knows, Mossad.
Oh, the more you know. I didn't know they had a bunch. Oh, also, what was I gonna say? For the AI like computers that you can, the AIs that you can fit into a CD, those are cool. But AI will never write malware. The thing about AI is it's a pattern recognition tool, so it can only do things that have been done before, or do things that have been closely done before. So it can't come up with a brand new hack. that has to be written by humans. So all malware is crafted by hand by a malicious person. Okay, it's not something that AI can make. That would be crazy, but I mean, yeah, maybe you'll prove me wrong one day, but I highly doubt it.
Factors are getting increasingly complex. Meanwhile, there are still vulnerabilities all over the globe in state infrastructure. We may soon see instances like that of Stuxnet as an everyday part of warfare. Stuxnet proved that it could be possible for some
Your email goes down because two governments across the world are beefing and you get hit with a virus, just like you catch a stray.
cyber weaponry to inflict real damage to the infrastructure of other states, and it changed the way that we assess warfare forever. But in a practical sense, did it really work? Stuxnet managed to damage 1,000 of Iran's centrifuges and reduced their capability to enrich uranium by a fifth. It was deemed to have set back Iran's nuclear due date until 2014. For $1 billion program, a 3-year delay is not all that cost effective. It's why the US and Israel had to return to other options such as...
Wait, a 3-year delay for $1 billion? Damn, the US has spent $1 billion for less. Okay.
Just kinetic strikes, assassinations, and the Iran nuclear deal as part of the strategy alongside more cyber attacks. At the end of all of it, though, Iran today has enough uranium that it could be possible for them to enrich enough for up to 5 warheads in a relatively short time. Arguably, Operation Olympic Games had already failed. As expensive as it was to make and as impressive as it was to accomplish, Stuxnet didn't move the needle. Why go to the effort of developing a bespoke cyber espionage toolkit when the US could likely develop a new bomb that might do a better job in destroying a facility like Natanz entirely for a fraction of the cost? The answer is...
you can't directly bomb a country, but you can upload a virus that who knows where this virus came from, right? Like, you have plausible deniability. You can't just drop a weapon, though. But there are still a select number of circumstances where cyber weaponry will be the best possible outcome. And as it becomes increasingly cheaper to develop malware and with more technology in the world than ever before, that trend only stands to continue. Therefore, the key element of a cyber weapon like Stuxnet is in potential. The world is only just dipping its toe into the ocean of cyber warfare, and that perhaps begs the scariest question of all. What happens when we fall in the water? A little fear-mongering there, good sir. A little scary. But I will say it is not as horrible as you make it out to be. There's some silver lining. It's unlikely that you will ever be targeted or affected by this.